Howdy y'all, Joe Hills here, recording as I always do in Nashville, Tennessee, and look at this beautiful vaulted roof. We have worked in the image that false symmetry has created, and we have built outward several segments that I feel contribute on the whole to the server and to this project. It's always nice to be able to come in here and do something to be part of a community, you know? And every opportunity to be a part of a community is something fleeting. So much of what I think makes Minecraft a great game is that it embraces the fleeting nature of existence, really. Everything out there in the world can change. It can be changed. No matter how impermeable certain obstacles seem, they can be worn down by rain, by melting snow, pushed over by glaciers, or just one guy with a hatchet and a lot of free time. But in general, it's a lot easier for a community with a lot of free time to be able to accomplish something big. And, we talked about that a little bit in recent episodes, talking about the Short Springs Natural Area in Tullahoma, Tennessee, and the new Collier Horn Bridge that got put in there. And we also talked a little bit about setbacks. And I never really intended for all these things to kind of tie together thematically in any meaningful way, because, hi, I'm Joe Hills, and I don't really have a plan. If there's a problem, I'll solve it, but, that's about as far as I go in terms of these sorts of things. But instead, somehow, the world has gotten its hooks into me as it revolves, and I was thinking a little bit about how sometimes we don't do a good job of just getting out there and appreciating some of the things that are changeable, that seem like they're too big to change, I'm going to totally mispronounce Notre Dame this entire episode. This is not out of disrespect. This is just, everybody I've talked to says, Joe, you're saying that wrong. I don't know how to say it right. I'm trying, but this is, my message is bigger than my pronunciation. Please bear with me, guys. But, we are living in an era where, it seems like things that people might have thought, or things, places, institutions that people might have thought would be around forever are suddenly possibly being winked out of existence. And it's so important to try to get out and see these things whenever you get your first chance. And hopefully you can go back and visit again. This is one of those stories that I feel kind of bad because I didn't ask my father's permission to tell this story, and this is not my story. This is his story. But he actually proposed to my mother at a restaurant that he thought would always be there, because he was just like, it would be wonderful for us to be able to come back here again on our anniversaries, and just, enjoy the same view that we had, and enjoy the same, not necessarily the same meals, but, it just seemed like something that was a neat concept to him. And that restaurant was the Windows of the World on the top floor of the World Trade Center, which is no longer in operation for what are probably pretty apparent reasons. And it just didn't occur to him that could happen. And it honestly didn't occur to a lot of us. At the same time, though, anything can fall over. Especially if it's not properly maintained, With Notre Dame, they were in the process of maintaining it, of doing restorative work to it when this accident occurred that caused all this damage. And it's unfortunate that so many of us haven't had the opportunity to see that place in person, that beautiful and ancient. I don't want to say ancient, because it's not like it was 1,000,000 years old, but like it was still like 900 years old. This church that has stood for centuries has endured some pretty bad damage, and they're gonna hopefully get it restored as best as they can, because that church has had other structural problems over the years, and they've been able to rebuild and rework it, but dang it, that's how we fall down. Core concept. We're out of blue terracotta anyway, so let's run back over there. Some of my coworkers, though, and some of my friends have been talking a lot, though, about how, like, they're going through their vacation photos to France and being like, oh, I'm so glad I saw it when I did. I'm so glad oh, this is just gone. Like, this whole part right here is just destroyed. And I'm thinking to myself, I never went to Paris. And this is not me trying to make this about me. This is just me saying, like, objectively, I have, like, lost this opportunity to see this thing in this state that other people got to see and enjoy. And it makes me feel kind of like maybe I should have structured my life differently. Realistically, you can't do everything. There's not time in the day or the year or the month or everything. But like, I had no idea how many people I knew had taken time out of their lives to go visit Notre Dame until this happened. And it's been kind of inspiring to me because I'm like, if all of these people from all these different backgrounds and levels of wealth and ages and experiences can find a way to all make time to go to Paris, maybe I should find a way to make time to go to Paris or London or one of these places. Maybe my daughter should have the opportunity to see these things that we assume will be around forever because maybe we assume wrong. And I mean, you don't know what's going to be there and what's not, So like I could have just, these people who went to see Notre Dame, in last summer could have just as easily have gone and visited Hong Kong and seen something there that was, I don't know, torn down to make way for new construction or something. There's always... Okay. We're going to not do that part. We're going to change this part of the plan. We're going to switch... no. There we go. We're going to put in some new blocks right here. So, I mean, it's not like, oh, I should have known that this specific thing was going to happen. But, like, just realizing how many people have gone out of their way to visit this historic place. Like, maybe I don't do enough to visit historic places. What could I do better to kind of honor these things while they're here? It's incredible seeing how many people are putting money into restoring or repairing parts of the cathedral. But really, I think about it like I go to the Alamo every year when I go to PAX South. And, I donate a little bit of money and buy some souvenirs and stuff. And, like, that's the sort of thing that, like, I want to make more time in my life to do. And I want to involve my family in because, sharing these experiences with the people we care about. Like, nobody who I talked to who was like, oh, yeah, I went to Paris and I saw this last summer. None of them were like, I went by myself, I just had a backpack and it was fine. They're all like, oh yeah, me and my family went and we did this and we did that and we had these experiences. And, it's just kind of inspiring, to see how, I don't know, how many people have had this shared experience of enjoying this art and this architecture. And so I think that that's something that I would want to share in. And I've realized, though, a lot of art is very fleeting, and not just architecture. But also, I went to a play that was staged for the first time in Nashville recently, called Jack and the Giant. And I've realized after I Googled it that there have been other plays staged with the same name. I think that these might have been supposed to be 3 high. Maybe 4. Okay, let's see real quick. 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's definitely 3 high. Well, so I did all those wrong. Or maybe they just looked differently because maybe the arch there and the blue one is done differently. It's hard to say. But yeah, I saw this new play called Jack and the Giant, which is a retelling or re-envisioning of Jack and the Beanstalk. I took my daughter, and okay, that's how we get shot at. Somehow we avoided that. Okay, let's I don't know why these ceilings here don't have more protection. Although, like, the fact that all of this can be destroyed at any point really does thematically reinforce what I'm talking about. I don't want False Symmetry to come back from her vacation trip or whatever. What? And be like, why, Joe, did you blow all of this up? Because that will make me look irresponsible and like a bad friend. And I would rather not do that. Okay, so we're just going to kind of come through here and just close a little bit more of that off. Okay, great. But, you know, when a play is staged for the first time, you don't know if it's ever going to be staged again. You know, and like in Nashville, we have something called the Ingram New Works Festival, where they have live table reads of like brand new plays that have never been staged anywhere. And maybe some of those will be performed all over the world. And maybe some of them won't have a big enough audience to ever go past being table read. But, you know, the thing is that even if something only has a very tiny audience, maybe of the 15 people who show up to see one of these plays, well, I would say more than 15 people. Usually I think there's like, I've gone to a few of them. There's probably 45 to 60 people, maybe. It depends on the play, I guess. But, okay, this definitely is a different art shape. Maybe I'm not going to mess with this anymore, because I don't know. Yeah, this is definitely a different sandstone type setup. But yeah, sorry, you know, maybe only one of the people in that room would really have that play resonate with them on a super deep level, because something that resonates with the whole audience is way more likely to get mass-produced and played everywhere. But something that just resonates really strongly with 1/5 of the audience or 1/8 of the audience isn't. But for those small fraction of the audience that it does deeply resonate with, you know, the play can just change their life. It can cause them to realize that maybe they've been thinking about something the wrong way, or that they need to reevaluate something, or just maybe it'll give them the confidence to do something that they wouldn't have otherwise. And like a play like that can change the world through one person, even if it doesn't go to Broadway and then tour or whatever, you know? And so, like, you know, all of these little art shows and like, you know, thinking about, you know, there's these tiny galleries all over town, and there's, you know, sculptors and painters that no one's ever heard of, but like one of their works, like I might walk past it with my daughter and it makes her brain change. And like just trying to get out there and do that more both at the local level and the global level is just so important. And like I said, I don't really have a good plan yet for like how I'm gonna do any of this, other than like, you know, well, I already went to a play, and I guess I already know when the Ingram New Works Festival is, and I already know how to get the like Schumerhorn Symphony schedule. I guess I'm basically just gonna look for stuff going on around town in the Nashville scene, and that's how I'm gonna do that part. I don't know how I'm gonna get to Paris. That's a separate thing. Going to Paris is a separate thing, but like if everybody else can go to Paris, why can't I? I've been so just like tied up in worrying about paying off my debt and just trying to like get all of these things in my life kind of aligned perfectly. But, you know, nothing's ever going to be aligned perfectly, you know? You got to be willing to do these things when you can, and if you might have to do a little bit of extra work to do them, then find a way to do that work and make it happen. Because, like, on the one hand, it's like when, you know, people always say, oh, you're only young once. But, like, I can be like, well, I have all these responsibilities, and it's not a good time for me to go to Europe right now. But at the same time, this is part of how your brain changes when you're a parent, right? So now that I'm a parent, you know, if somebody says, oh, well, you're only young once, I'm like, yeah, well, I'm busy. Okay? But then if they say, well, your daughter's only young once, I'm like, oh. So one of my responsibilities now is going to Paris. It's not me escaping my responsibilities to go to Paris. It's trying to find ways to make that happen for my daughter. That's now part of my job as a dad, to find ways to connect with the world so that she can grow up more connected to the world, you know? And I really want to, I need to think more about how to do this. If you guys have anything, like experiences that you had as a kid where your parents took you somewhere that was really inspiring, or if you, I don't know, if you have ideas about how to better connect with artists in your local communities, because, you know, even though I've finally got my student debt paid off and I'm finally in a place where I can start, you know, worrying about this stuff realistically, where it's not just a total pipe dream, other people, they're not there. And so I think it might be helpful for us to talk about, like, you know, well, what can you do in town? How can you do it in town? I don't know. On the one hand, like, I spend a lot of time talking about, maybe I don't talk about it much. I probably don't talk about it. Feel free to leave comments about whether or not I talk about this much. But I was going to say, I spend a lot of time thinking about how I want the world to be better, and I want to do things that will make the world better, because my daughter is going to live here, and I live here, and everybody wants to live somewhere good, right? At the same time, you know, it's important to reflect on the things that are already good and appreciate them, and appreciate the people who worked so hard to make them so excellent. You know? I think a lot about how in Bill and Ted, it's not just be excellent to each other, but also party on, dudes. You know? Like, we should celebrate the things that make us great. And when I say us, I don't mean like I want to celebrate what makes my family great, or me and my friends great. I want to celebrate what makes humanity great. And I want that to be a good party that other people want to go to too, you know? Like, you know, I want to go to, if I'm at a play and I'm in an audience, I want to be a good participant in that. I want to really engage with what's happening, and I'm trying to teach my daughter to do that too. And it's a little bit challenging with live events and small children, but I think it's worth it, and she's getting the hang of it. So, anyway, this is, I'm sure there are a million takes on everything going on with Notre Dame and everything, but you know, like I said, I'm not there. I'm not in Paris. I can't talk about the details of everything that went down. But what I'm seeing in Tennessee is a lot of people go to Paris, and I never really, it just wasn't on my radar as a thing that I could do. And I'm realizing as I get older, there's a lot of things I can do if I put in the effort to figure out how to do them. So, I think I owe it to my daughter to give that a try. Anyway, you know, you might have noticed that this episode was mid-roll ad-free, and that is thanks to a $50 a month Patreon sponsorship from Kathleen Heath. In lieu of that mid-roll ad, I will now read a poem of my own devising, which I actually wrote kind of a little bit about what I talked about today. Kind of a reflection on how I feel about the world sometimes, because the world is difficult and beautiful and amazing in all sorts of different ways, but I should let the poem speak for itself. Sometimes, if I write something that might sound kind of negative, I want to make sure people have the context, so they're not just like, hey, Joe, man, are you okay? Are you okay, man? It's like, yeah, I think I can acknowledge that the world is not always great in poetry without necessarily being like, at risk, guys. And then they'll be like, yeah, but Joe, that poem didn't really make it clear, like, what you were talking about. So, anyway, enough framing. On with the poem, which, I have tentatively titled Existential Love. Our love and beloved commutative, you are beautiful, and I love you. I love you. and you are beautiful. What about loved, but beloved? Is that something one can even say, or something one must show, or something one must hear, or something one must see? If we are made in God's image, is he disappointed when we follow his example the way we are with our children when they follow ours? Does the Lord feel what parents feel when their children copy their vices each time I harden Pharaoh's heart? Does he shake his head when you command survivors of ethnic infanticide to remove their sandals? Does he plug his ears when we command our session trumpeter to blow his fifth horn and our vocalist to belt out, "Whoa, whoa, whoa"? Does he hide his face as we cover the earth with water? And where are our faces? Why don't we reflect the light we feel? Do our contorted masks distort photons like planes skew radar, our profiles misleading and shrunken, while our bellies are exposed to any naked eyes looking up at that moment, as our backs are exposed to the sky? And what do we have to show for it? But where are our faces? Why don't we feel the light we reflect? Do the photons scatter like out-stealth radar from our false smiles, our cross-sections lighter than air, while the heavens and the earth envelop us completely and form a shape around us that we push through each day, wondering why we feel such resistance? Are endure and endured commutative? You are cruel, and I love you. I love you, and you are cruel. Until next time, y'all, this is Joe Hills from Nashville, Tennessee. Keep adventuring.